Hey, it's your man, Doc Love, aka the Breakup Coach, relationship speaker, and relationship education advocate, back with the Why Is This So Challenging podcast. Like always, we have to start off first by introducing my wonderful co-host and also my lovely wife, Miss Lady Love. How are you doing today, Miss Lady Love?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, wonderful. As always, we want to thank you for all of the love and support that you have given us and continue to give us. And we just love it. It's inspiring us and it's just causing us to want to do more. So we just thank you. We're going to keep doing this and we want you to just keep reaching out to us and keep supporting us, buying our products. And we just appreciate you doing so. And we just want you to just stay with us because there's so much more that we have in store. Also, as we talked about before, we are forming a community and we're working on that right now. So we want you all to just be aware so that when that time comes, you can join our community, be a part, because we want you to have the relationships that you desire. And we just want to make sure that you have a space and a place where you feel comfortable to be able to let us know what is stopping that from happening and how we can help you to fix that and anything else. So just come in. We start this family. I don't even want to call it community. I want to call it family, but we're going to start this family and we want this family to just grow and blossom. And we want to see results come from this. So Lady Love, we're going to get right into today's topic and we're going to let Lady Love start us off with it.
Okay. Well, today we're actually going to talk about practicing relationships.
Yes.
And we have been in conversation about this. It kind of spawned off of another episode that we did previously. And that episode was so fiery and so jam-packed that we decided that we should definitely delve more into the topic of practicing relationships. Mm. And so it's a little bit of a continuation of another episode as well as talking about tone.
Yes, exactly. So for me, I want to start it off by saying that when we talk about practicing something, we're talking about doing something that we want to get right. Things that we basically know that we can get better at. And we have to understand that relationship is like anything else. We talking about all the time working out or eating right, or basically if you want to have the type of career you want to have, you have to put some things into practice. You may have to practice discipline if you want to go back to school, especially if you're going back after being out and you maybe start a family or you got a job. Now you have to discipline yourself because it's not just going to school. And it's the same thing with working out. You're going to have to start cutting out maybe things in your diet, or you're going to have to start making sure that you get the amount of sleep you need and things of that nature so that you can get the maximum in your workout. And it's the same thing in relationship. And one of the things that we don't talk about or emphasize enough is practicing that, is how do we practice the relationship that we desire? And when you think about it from this standpoint, we have to understand that there are things that we can do, especially when we're not in a relationship, that can prepare us for the relationship that we want and need. It reminds me of this book by Ian Van Zandt. I believe the book was In the Meantime, and she talked about how she would practice going and preparing a meal, but also preparing an extra placemat at the table for someone else so that that placemat will be there in preparation for somebody to be there, that man that she's desiring to now be there. Now, of course, that's a practice that she was doing to prepare herself for having that man there. So that's just one example of many examples that you can do. Maybe you have a situation where you feel like, oh, I want to practice coming home and saying, honey, I'm home, and somebody actually answering you. So it's understanding that we want to make sure that we're practicing the things that we want. And more importantly, whatever it is you're doing now, you're practicing. You're practicing how you think about relationship right now. You're practicing how you do relationship right now. And if you're practicing something that's not serving you, maybe it's time for you to change what you're practicing, because everything that you're doing right now, you're practicing. Just like a lawyer practices law, someone that's practicing medicine is a doctor. Right. You're practicing whatever it is that you're getting right now. you are practicing that. If it's negative, then you have practiced a negative process that's giving you a negative result. So now it's time to change that practice and put in practice habits that's going to give you the best results.
Absolutely. And something that I want to touch on that you were talking about just a little bit more is about the things that you practice or the things that you value. So the thing that I think in our society and in our culture that we have gotten away from is practice when it comes to relationships, and also practice when it comes to parenthood. When we think about some of the not so healthy ways generationally that things have happened in our families when it comes to marriage, relationships, how you raise your children, parenting, different things like that. Nothing is wrong with you saying, you know what, I put a lot of value in this. I want to change the trajectory of my generational pattern.
Yes.
I want to change the trajectory of my life. And so that means, and I know it may sound very stiff, stuffy to say, oh, I'm practicing relationship, but you practice the things that you put value on.
Yes.
For instance, when I was a social worker and there were parents who grew up in households where there was a lot of physical and other types of abuse, a lot of times we would have to refer those families out to counseling. We would have to have them take anger management courses, or we would have to have them to take parenting courses because they did not have the tools generationally to help them. So they had to get tools, and then they had to practice. Because practice is always going to come. Because once you get the tools, you're going to have to live in real life. You're going to have to actually utilize these tools. That's the whole point of getting tools. It's not just to have the tools just to say, okay, I went to counseling or I learned this new concept. It's about utilizing those tools in your day-to-day life. And it's no different with relationship. The same way that Doc Love talked about working out, eating healthier. These are not just things that you're just wanting to do in 2 weeks and you think that it's just going to sink in. Like many gurus tell you, this is a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle change that you make. So it may seem very structured and systematic when you think about practice in relationships, but actually it's not. We do it every day. The difference is, have we been putting value? Do we see the value factor of marriage and relationships, or do we treat it like it doesn't matter? Or that it's not important, when we know that the building blocks of civilization comes from family. It comes from relationship. It comes from the way you set up that foundation. Because if we are not in a deep connection with each other, then when the storms of life happen, 9 out of 10 times, those relationships, those marriages, those relationships, even outside of a marriage, is going to fail because everything is relational. So I just wanted to say that's why it's so important to me that we have open, honest communication around relationships. Because for many years, we haven't done this. We haven't had open communication and relationships about things that are going on in our families, that are going on in our relationships, that are going on with dating, the way that we don't like each other. And I know this is a concept that may seem very strange, but there are a lot of men who don't like women, and there are a lot of women who don't like men. Like, they're not looking to be on a different team, but they detest each other. And that is a problem in our culture that we have to work on. Even if we decide that we don't want to be in relationships with each other, there needs to be some type of common ground and respect and love that we can have as brothers and sisters for each other, specifically in our culture, but also as a people in general. So I just wanted to point that out, that when you value something, then it's important enough for you to practice it. It's important enough for you to get the tools to do better at the thing that you're working on.
Exactly. And the thing that we do is we do our best to give you solutions. So actually watching our podcast, you're going to get tools that you can practice. things that you can actually put into practice and things you can institute into your life right now. Because as we said before, when it comes to relationship, you're practicing something. And I think people don't realize that. We talked about before how people practice the belief of, oh, I don't need no man, or man feeling like, oh, I don't need these women. They just trying to bring me down. You're practicing that belief, that thought process, and you're either doing it, hearing it, or seeing some evidence of that on a daily basis.
Right.
That's a practice. I mean, so we don't realize how important it is for us to practice something that's positive. If you are not practicing something that's positive, then more than likely the negative is what has been programmed in you. And so that's what's happening. And right now, I can tell you sometimes what happens is when you hear something positive or somebody encouraging you to do something different or make a change, there's an inner voice in you that's basically programmed and it's saying, oh, don't listen to them. Don't do that. That's not going to help you. Or they just like everybody else. You've tried this before. It never works. That's that inner voice in you that has been practiced over time, over days, months, and years even, that's getting you to stay where you are and not allow you to have the relationship that you desire. And you have to make a practice of saying, no, I want something different. I want the relationship I desire. I want what I know is for me and what I can have, and not allow that voice that's inside you that has been practiced for so long to continue to practice and take you down that road. Because the truth of the matter is that voice can make it to where you never have the relationship you desire, or never have a marriage, or never have that partnership you desire for the rest of your life. And trust me, I've lived long enough to see people that I grew up with still having that struggle today.
Right. And so with practicing relationships, what does that process look like? Like when we talk about practicing anything else, we're talking about routinely and systematically doing something. So what does that look like?
Basically, it's the same type of process. We've talked about this, but I want to get into it again. I mean, first it starts with practicing the thoughts that you think. There's something called awareness or self-awareness. The moment that you start to say, you know what, I want this relationship, I want something is going to start happening in you, or saying something in you like, oh no, you've tried that before, it doesn't work. So you have to be aware of those inner voices that's happening, and you have to combat that. You have to say, no, I want this now. And so it's starting with your thoughts. What thoughts are you thinking? What beliefs do you have about relationship? If you believe that all women are just money hungry, or you believe all men are just going to cheat, that's what you have to change. You have to practice something that says, no, that's not the truth. There are good men out here that want a woman and want to be monogamous. There are good women out here that want a man for more than their money. And that's what you have to understand. It starts with the thoughts. And then it also starts with you making a practice of saying, hey, what else is there that I believe or that I want and desire out of my relationship that goes beyond the physical, that goes beyond the person that I see? What else is there? What type of character do I want them to have? What type of personality do I want them to have? What type of belief system do I want them to have? And understand that this is something you have to practice too. Understanding that your belief system, your character, how you carry yourself and how you come off when it comes to interacting with persons of the opposite sex is just as important. So not just desiring someone that is doing it on a high level for you, but you also making sure that you're doing it on the highest level that you can do it on. And understanding that when those inner voices, that programming that has happened over the years where you've been hurt and been devastated by love and it's made you want to give up, that's what you have to fight against. They say the hardest thing to do is work on ourselves, but that's the process that you have to put in place so that you can get started on that journey. And that's why we're here to give you the tools and information you need to do that.
Right. And it seems like disrupting that negative program where you're constantly saying the negative about the situation is that you have to exchange that for the positive.
Exactly.
And so we know that we're living in a society where social media is a part of a lot of people's lives. Like, I can pretty much guarantee that most people out here have looked at some social media platform today. And so we know that a lot of what we're saying is shaped by what we're watching.
Exactly.
It's shaped by the people who we're around. It's shaped by the information that we're putting into ourselves, whether it's through television, social media, who we're around, our friend group, our family group. These are people who really impact our lives on a big level. And so I can see where this is going to be difficult for a lot of people. You're going to have to change your circles.
Yeah.
You're going to have to change what you're watching if you want to think about something different. There's no way I can look at dessert videos all day long and at some point not want to eat dessert. That's just
Exactly.
that's just what it is. When I decide that I want to have a healthier lifestyle, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to eat dessert, but it just means that I'm not going to watch dessert 24/7.
Exactly.
I'm going to look at some healthier options of food. I'm going to be looking at healthier options of recipes that I can make, and those things are going to outweigh the desserts that I watch.
Exactly. And another thing that's so important is oftentimes we're watching what we don't want. We're listening to stuff we don't want.
So good.
We are practicing what we don't want. And that's the point. What she is saying is we have to start practicing what we do want, watching what you do want, listening to that information that you do want. It's so important to understand that you get programmed on what you don't want. Listening to a very spiritual brother, and that's what he was talking about, is that you become normalized on what you don't want.
Right.
And that becomes the norm for you. So all that's going to happen is you're going to continue to get what you don't want.
Right.
It has to be you stepping up and saying, okay, what do I want? And that's why it starts with the thought. That's why it starts with your belief. What do you want?
Right.
Those words are so important. What do you want? I talked about before, if you go to Cheesecake Factory, because we know the Cheesecake Factory has an extensive menu. You cannot go into that restaurant and tell the waiter, let me tell you what I don't want on this menu. That's going to take far too long. But they want to know what you do want. That takes much shorter amount of time to do. It's precise. And that's what they can take back to that kitchen and get prepared for you. So it's about understanding I have to focus on what I do want. I have to put down what it is that I desire to see. You can build it off of the things you don't want, but you have to discard all of that thought process. You could say, okay, these are the things I don't want, so let me take that and flip it around, and now I got my do want list, or the things that I do want. So you have to start by doing that.
Absolutely. And I want to make mention that the reason why we ruminate as humans over what we don't want is because it keeps us in a loop.
Yes.
It keeps us staying in a place where we do not have to stretch ourselves beyond what we do not want. Unfortunately, the subconscious wants to feel comfortable, and it's comfortable with what it is used to, or what limiting beliefs you have. That subconscious want to stay there because it feels comfortable. How many times have people been in domestic violence situations and they know that they don't want this?
Right.
They know that they don't want to stay in this situation, but it's so much easier just to stay where you are. You know that maybe this person is providing something to you, or maybe they've committed financial abuse. And so you feel like you can't get out of this because you don't have the resources, which there are agencies that you can go to get some help. But I said all this to say that as humans, it makes you feel comfortable.
Exactly.
When you can sit around and with your girls, with your guys, and say what's trash and what you don't like and how this is trash, that prevents you from stretching yourself to say, you know what, there is only one person that I'm looking for. It's not all the bad people in the world who are trash and who are not good mates. It's just one person that I want. And there has to be polarity If there are a whole crew of people who aren't doing something right, there's a whole crew of people who are doing things right. So it may make you feel comfortable to sit in these conversations and to sit in these groups and to just keep ruminating about things that you feel are negative, because it helps you to say, oh, that's why I'm single. That's why I don't want to be in a relationship. But deep down, you know whether or not you really want to be in a relationship or not. You know deep down if you want companionship. And so stretch yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And something that we talked about is choose your heart.
Exactly. But what also is not talked about in this situation is it brings up something called pain. And oftentimes we don't want to talk about the pain that is behind the fact that things aren't working out for you in the relationships you want. We talk all the time about the fact that there's pain on both sides of the fence. Mm-hmm. There's pain when it comes to doing the work that it takes to have the relationship you desire. But what people don't want to deal with and understand is this pain when it comes to kicking it with the girls and just knowing that I'm not going home to somebody special, or I'm not going to meet somebody special tonight that's going to be that person that I could be with for the rest of my life. And we don't want to address that. And I get it. It might feel like that pain is fleeting and it doesn't hurt you a lot. But guess what? The pain that it's going to take for you to have the relationship you desire is going to be fleeting too. It's not going to stay painful. It's going to stay painful for a while because you're going through that process. But once you get on the other side, that's when you're going to see the blessing of what you've done. And that's in anything that you do, as we talked about. If you working out, there's going to be some pain. Those muscles are going to give you pain in order to grow. But on the other side of that, there's going to be the joy of you having the body you want. If you got to go back to school to get your career, it's going to be pain and having to stay up late and study, do papers and all of that. But the joy is going to be on the other side when I get that degree and I get that job I want. And it's the same with relationship. It's going to be pain going through dealing with some of these things that you've been dealing with for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, all the pain of failed relationships and the love that was lost. But it's going to be joy on the other side when you figured out, this is how I need to do it. This is how I want to set it up. I practice it. I prepared for it. And now it's here. Now I get to enjoy it.
Exactly.
Now I get to be in it. So it's about understanding that it's pain on both sides. It's which pain do you want? Because trust me, one is going to lead you to pain that's going to be lasting, where the other can be temporary. But then once you get past that pain, oh, the joy you'll have to have the relationship you desire.
Exactly. And it feels so much better when you endured a short period of pain that brings you to the other side, because you know that if you stay in the pain that you've been in, you already know what the outcome is. It won't change. You will continue to get the same negative thing that you don't prefer. And so stretch yourself. This is a part of human exploration, the human journey. This is about growing as a person. This is my call for you to stretch yourself. You don't have to stay in a stagnant situation. You can choose something different for your life in any and every aspect of your life. We're talking about relationship right now, but in any situation in your life, you can change it. And one of the things that I think about in practicing relationship is the actual practice of relationship. Like if you're in a relationship with someone, you're newly dating someone, we talked about this in the other episode. You may think that I am just going to be a wife or I'm just going to be a husband when I become a wife or a husband on paper. And the truth of the matter is a wife or a husband happens even before that takes place. And so I've heard this notion of women saying that I'm not going to do wifely things if I'm a girlfriend. And on the level of physical intimacy, and we all know what I'm talking about, I can understand that if that's a moral issue for you. But as it relates to you showing your qualities as a wife, that's something that you have anyway. One thing that I do as a wife and as a person who loves my family is I serve my husband. I serve my family members. I'll fix their plate and I'll give the plate to my husband. He does the same for me. But the thing is that I didn't come with this notion that, oh, until you put a ring on my finger, I'm not going to fix your plate. Same way that he'd care for me and take care of me in ways, because before we became married, he didn't say, oh, well, I'm not going to cater to you or open your door or do something chivalrous to you because you're not my wife. And this is something that he would do for his sister or his niece.
Right.
So the thing is like the character of being a wife or the character of being a husband happens way before you actually say I do. And so to me, this is a form of practicing.
Yes.
And we may not look at it that way, because if you are a wife and if you are a husband, it comes very natural. But I want people to realize that train of thought of you need to wait until we get married before you get these benefits, that probably is going to lead to you not getting to marriage.
Yes.
And how would that person even know that you possess these qualities? There's no way that a person know that you're nurturing if you're never nurturing. There's
Exactly.
no way that a woman can know that you are caring and considerate if you're going to wait until you get married to do that.
Exactly. And going back to something you said, it reminds me of the definition of insanity, doing the same things over and over again and expecting a different result. And so if we know that we've done this over and over for so many years of practicing something that's not working, practicing the belief that I'm not going to be giving this to someone until a certain thing happens, well, where has that gotten you?
Right.
What's the result of that? Meaning you're basically practicing something that's eliminating you from getting to that stage.
Right.
It's almost like a basketball player saying, I'm not going to practice being a basketball player until you let me into the NBA. Well, what would the NBA have as evidence if
Right.
you've never played basketball? Just because you're tall doesn't mean that you can play basketball. So that's why practicing is so important.
Right.
Can you imagine a basketball player saying, I'm 20 years old and I'm tall, let me into the NBA, and they have not one shred of film or one shred of evidence that you can play the game?
Right.
It takes the process of practicing that you're preparing yourself. And this is something that we have to point out. Please listen to this. This is not about that other person as much as it's about you. You're practicing what you want to see. This is about what you want in your life. Of course, the other person is going to be on the other end of that, and they're going to be the one that is giving you this life or giving you this relationship. But it starts with, what do you want? So this practice is you saying, this is what I want to see. And I know by practicing this, then there's going to be someone on the other side of this that's going to deliver this to me. And it's the same thing with the basketball analogy. They know that every day that I practice, every day that I go out there and I put up game film and I go out here and I do my best, every day I do that, somebody's going to say, man, that guy's getting better. We need to give him a scholarship, or we need to work with him so he can get a chance to make it to the league. But if they never see that, if they never know what this person can be, how many Michael Jordans are they walking around the street that nobody never knows or never will know because they didn't practice enough? They didn't give it enough. They didn't focus enough. They didn't take the time to say, hey, this is what I want. I'm going to put something or everything that I can into this so that I can get what I want out of it. So really, you're being lied to if somebody's telling you not to put into practice what it is that you want to be.
Right.
If you want to be a wife, you have to start practicing being a wife before you become a wife. Right. And that's what's so important.
Absolutely. And even when we're talking about being in dating relationships, use those experiences to help you to practice.
Yes.
Because when you get into a relationship with somebody, you don't know this could be the one, or it may not be the one. But the thing is that you don't start practicing relationship and what you want in the relationship you know is the one.
Right.
Because any of these relationships that you get into could potentially be the one.
Exactly.
So when you have an argument, try to get better in your arguing.
Yes.
As time goes along and you learn how to communicate, you learn how to fight fairly, you learn how to hear the other person out, you learn how to regulate your own emotions, then you become better at arguing. That means that you maybe 5 years ago would curse and scream and storm out the door. Or maybe 3 years ago you would shut down and you won't say anything anymore so that you don't talk for 3 or 4 days. Or maybe a year ago the communication has gotten a little bit better and now you may have an argument, but you can get somewhere. You can recover a lot quicker.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about with practicing relationship. Whatever relationship at whatever stage that you're in, even if you're married now, practice good communication, practice arguing in a better way, because we're kind of getting to tone now, because what happens is that in a relationship, when you don't practice how to argue properly, it doesn't just get better because you've been together for 10 years. It doesn't. It takes effort. Just like anything else that you do, you must make a conscious decision and effort to get better at it, or you will continue to do the same thing over and over again. Think about it. There are people who've been doing the same thing all their lives, because they say, this is just who I am, this is how I do it, and you deal with it.
Right.
Right.
And in that, we talked about microaggressions and how we do a lot of microaggressing, or what would be considered small little jabs at the person that we are in a relationship with, or dating, or even married. And those microaggressions add up. It's basically you continuing to jab at the person by making these little smart comments or doing little things that get at them. Some people enjoy that they're doing this and how it ticks the other person off.
Right.
But those little small things add up, and it allows that person to feel like, okay, maybe this is not the best person for me. Or if they're married, it's going to cause that person to kind of withdraw from you. Right. So it's those things that we're talking about as far as practice that's so important. Practice eliminate microaggressions. If you know that you're saying things that tick off your mate or the person that you're married to or the person you're dating, eliminate that. Why would you do that? You wouldn't want that person to do that to you. So understand, put the shoe on the other foot. Do I want somebody to keep jabbing at me, especially in a way that I know is not positive to me? So just putting the shoe on the other foot, understanding how important that is to stop doing things like that. And also, it's not about you practicing something where you have to figure this thing out and tomorrow it has to be perfect.
Right.
We understand what practice is. You get better as you do it, the more you do it. What we're asking you to do is start a process that is allowing you to practice something healthy when it comes to relationship. And it's about this one thing that I've heard so many kids talk about when they're in college, or even the pros. Their process is, when I go to practice, I want to be 1% better than I was the day before. If I get 1% better, I keep stacking these days, that's going to add up, that 1%. So it's not about, I got to go in here and practice something and then I have to read these books and watch these podcasts and do this, and then next week I got to know how to do it all. No, it's not about figuring it all out in one day or 1 week, but it's about putting those things into practice. 1% every day, getting a little bit better. Let me study this and focus on this and get better at that. And it's also about letting go of some things that you know is not going to help you or serve you in having the relationship you want. So sometimes we just have to let go of certain people, let go of going to certain places, let go of doing certain things that is not serving me, because at the end of the day, you want to practice something that you want and you desire for yourself. And trust me, this is another thing. I promise you, I have to say this. Because you're practicing getting better in relationship does not mean that now all of a sudden I'm not going to be the same go-getter. You know, I'm not going to be on my business, or I'm not going to be out here really wanting to make my money. You could still be someone that is healthy and happy in relationship and get your money. You could be someone that's healthy and happy in relationship and still be someone that is a boss and know that I have to lay down the law. But when I come home to the person I'm with, then I can be that loving person that they want to be with and they want to see, and I'm that person for them.
All of that is so that was really good. I wanted to go back into the microaggression as well.
Let's go.
Like you were saying, these are not things that you are going to rectify overnight.
No.
But one thing that I do feel when it comes to microaggression and the jabs and things like that is that sometimes people do these things because they're not happy with themselves. They may be in a funky mood, and so if they're in a funky mood, then they put that energy off on you. It's not fair, but it's human.
Yes.
It's human nature. And so when you are dealing with microaggression type behaviors where you are giving the microaggression or you're receiving it, so important that you, number one, call it out. You may want to wait until you're not upset by the microaggression to say, hey, I noticed that you did this. Like, where is this coming from? That may need to be a conversation. And then sometimes it takes really being honest with yourself. If you're the one that's putting out that microaggression, you have to look within yourself. Am I triggered by something?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you want to be honest, and you also want to treat the person that you with the love and respect that you want them to give to you, because what will end up happening is that person will start mirroring your actions.
Exactly.
And they're going to be microaggressive to you. And all of these things are cumulative. You may think that one jab is no big deal. I just was feeling some kind of way, or she made me mad, or he made me mad, and so I said that little thing. But over time, it becomes a big thing.
Exactly.
And so in marriages and relationships, that's something that we need to be honest and clear about, is that when there is an issue, we need to identify it. At some point in time, you don't want this to keep riding out, because this will affect the tone of your mate.
Exactly.
When you start noticing couples who they talk snarky to each other all the time, up under their breath, they may call them a name. Like, that doesn't happen overnight. That's usually disrespect or hurt feelings or disappointment over time. And those microaggressions can really end relationships or make those relationships very toxic. So I just wanted to point that out. But all of the things that you've said have just been amazing, because we need to look at all of these things in order to look at how to practice relationship in a productive way.
Definitely. Well, again, we thank you for joining us. This has been a Power Pack show. We want to continue to have you to join us, so you're welcome back anytime. I know that it's a lot to take in, and I understand that sometimes it could be a lot to digest. But one thing I would suggest is the process of watching this over and over again. Sometimes we don't get everything the first time, and sometimes we have to write it down, or maybe you watched it once and didn't hear everything, or you hear something the second or the third time. And this is what helps you to digest this. It's not going to be easy to just start practicing something that you haven't been practicing before. I remember when I was a little boy, basically, and I was 8 or 9 or whatever, 10 years old, and I had to practice the trumpet. It wasn't easy at first, but the more I kept practicing, the easier it got. So it's about understanding that practice makes perfect, but you have to start somewhere, and you just want to get better, 1% better every day at what it is you're practicing. And trust me, when you look down the line, you're going to see how far you've come, and you'll see that a lot of that pain that you thought was going to be there, you've gotten past that. And now you're in a place where it's much easier for you to practice and have the relationship you desire. This is your man, Doc Love. My co-host, my wonderful wife, Lady Love. We're just so happy to have you. And as we always say, live and love fearlessly. We are out of here. Peace.